This is the official timeline of all of your favorite DreamWorks movies, according to yours truly. And as I go along this list, make sure you comment your favorite moment in any of these movies. For the sake of this timeline, we'll be splitting it up into two parts. ED for early DreamWorks and BM for, well, we'll get into it later. The earliest film possible in the DreamWorks timelines happens to be Croods. It was probably easy for you to figure that out, because it's quite literally in the prehistoric era. But you probably wouldn't be able to guess that Trolls would be next in this timeline. So here's some reasoning. In the Trolls film, the Trolls and the Bergens kind of lived untouched from mankind. Their societies and way of life would be untouched until many years later. That's when How to Train Your Dragon and Kung Fu Panda come into the mix. And you might be wondering, how would both of these films be happening around the same time? Well, if How to Train Your Dragon happens during the time of the Vikings and Kung Fu Panda happens during the resurgence of Kung Fu, then they will both be happening within the 4th and 7th century, which actually leads me then to Puss in Boots 1 and 2, which happens during medieval Spain. So whether adjacent or at the same time, Shrek then occurs. Then the DreamWorks timeline gets a little crazy after this, so make sure you hit that follow button and save this video for later. It's for the algorithm. But right after Shrek, we get Madagascar, Boss Baby, Over the Hedge, Flushed Away, Ants, Shark Tales, Abominable, and The Legends of the Guardians, all happening at the same time. All of these movies are basically present day. Why, I hear you ask? Well, because they're all stories about animals or people doing things out of sight of the masses. People, monsters, magic, and animals haven't intertwined since Shrek, which is why we'll get into the BM period, or should I say, the B-movie period. And I cannot stress this next part enough. Turbo comes just before the B-movie, so they are happening almost adjacent to each other. Because unlike all of the other movies that I just mentioned previously, Turbo actually impacted the world outside of himself at large, going viral on the internet as the one who won the Indy 500. Well, do you like jazz? Because the next person to have just as big of an impact as Turbo happens to be Barry the Bee from the B-movie. So now in this DreamWorks timeline, we've gone over everything from the early DreamWorks period, and now we're transitioning over to the BM period, the B-movie period, because now people, animals, and other things are interacting with people at large. Because right after the B-movie happens to be Peabody and Sherman, where a dog is actually the smartest person in the world. And right after Peabody and Sherman, we have more instances of other intelligent beings like Megamind and Monsters vs. Aliens, which is why I have to say that right after Monsters vs. Aliens, Home is the last on the list to occur. And that's basically it. That's our full timeline for the DreamWorks franchise. Now then, you might be wondering, where are all of the 2D movies? Well, for your sake and my sake, we didn't have to include them because they're kind of fanatical tales like Sinbad and biblical tales. And even though I think they might be true, not everybody is accustomed to the belief system. So to tie up loose ends, all of those happen in between How to Train Your Dragon and Puss in Boots. So I hope you liked that video. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you share with a friend, and of course, follow us here and everywhere else. And has it crossed your mind that the new Velma may just very well be a different timeline? Or maybe that SpongeBob's parents aren't quite his parents? Make sure you click the video on the left if you want to watch one, and click on the right if you want to watch the other. See you later.